Hello, hello, hello. I'm so excited. So I'm thrilled. I'm going to talk with Loretta Garbutt, and she's an author from Canada. And why would I talk to an author from Canada? How do I know her? I live far away. It's because I just ran to her post in her Instagram. She read from a book, a beautiful book called Stopwatch from Grandpa. And I fell in love with this book and I asked to interview because I think it's so relevant to parents because it deals with a very delicate topic about a grandpa that passed away. And I think it's important to deal with those topics through reading a book. I think it's the best way to do it. And I want Loretta to share with you about her book and why she decided to deal with it. How does children react to this book? And let's invite her.
Hello.
Hello, Loretta.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel so just thrilled to be with you.
It's my pleasure, and I'm so happy, and I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
So,
it's great.
Loretta, can you tell me, please, about the book Stopwatch from Grandpa?
Sure. Okay, well, this is the UK version of the book. This is called Grandpa's Stopwatch. And this is what's available in the UK and the Commonwealth. This is a story about a child and his grandfather, and they love timing each other playing these little games. So Grandpa will time the child running to the end of the street and back, or eating ice cream, and then the child will time how long it takes Grandpa to nap, or how long it takes him to sip his coffee. But when Grandpa is gone, when Grandpa dies, the child is lost, and the child doesn't really know how to spend all that time he had. Time has no meaning, and he chucks that stopwatch into a drawer. But in time, the child learns how special those moments with Grandpa were, and eventually he's able to enjoy those games again. So it's a book about hope, about loss. It's gentle and it's fun, and it has to be hopeful so that we can move forward with a big issue like losing somebody. And it's not a heavy book, it's warm.
I love the way this book deals with this topic, and like even it's very delicate. So there's the sentence, "I don't want to stopwatch. I want him. I want Grandpa." But it's very delicate. And what I love is that the child all the time plays with the stopwatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a classic stopwatch. It's one of these. Like, kids now are used to the digital ones, but I loved this because you can actually see time, time is ticking by, and it's got a great sound to it, and it's really tactile, and I thought this would be a great instrument for kids.
It's true, because I'm sure that when you tell this to children, they love and they want to play with it, right?
They really do. No, you can't touch it. It's old.
Like, you would understand why a child would be drawn to this game.
Yeah, in the classroom visits that I do, I compare the two of them, and it's interesting because a lot of kids haven't seen that, and we grew up with that, so it's fun.
So why do you think this book is relevant for parents and educators?
It covers a very difficult topic of grief. It's a really hard topic to discuss with children, especially now with what the world is going through. Many children have lost their grandparents or someone they love, or they know somebody who has lost somebody, and those emotions are they're so confusing, and they're really raw with children. I mean, with all of us, but kids just don't understand how to deal with it. This book has many layers to it, and a parent or teacher can choose their approach, which is what I like. The story is subtle. It does cover the 5 stages of grief, but I only bring up those 5 stages of grief in older classes, like from children 8 to 10, because they're open and they're able to talk about grief. But with little ones, we talk about the book on a different level. We talk about feelings. We talk about emotions. And how we miss the people in our lives, and sadness and anger.
You know, and about I'm talking about smaller children that are 3, 4, 5. So a lot of times it's hard for them. It's not even a question of grief, just departing from their parent and going to the kindergarten. And then when they take
Yes.
something from home to the kindergarten, it helps them deal when they're in the kindergarten without their mother or father.
For sure, for sure. I used to do story times in daycares, and kids always held on to something. And when nap time, they
Yeah.
slept with something. And my kids brought things all the time. My son was one of those kids who had to have one thing in each hand. Another level of this book is that it talks about intergenerational relationships and how precious they are, and how important they are in our lives. The other thing, which is really cool, is, and this is the illustrator's brilliance, is that this is kind of a gender neutral child. Anyone can make this child a boy or a girl so that they can identify with. And that's kind of a stroke of brilliance.
It's great. I love this. And also the colors, right? You told me about the.
Yeah, Carmen Mock, the illustrator, she used a very limited palette, like maybe 4 colors, to show the limited emotional range of the child. And she did everything by hand, like even the end pages are all by hand, where a lot of illustrators use work digitally. I mean, there's the first page. That's a pretty powerful page.
Yes.
But it's simple, and picture books are supposed to show and not tell. So that says it all. That shows sadness, that shows loneliness, and even that is a good discussion page.
Loretta, I have a question. Like, if I would be a parent, and luckily our family didn't deal with any loss, I would be maybe concerned to read something like this to my child, because I would maybe say, maybe I will bring up very hard emotions, and maybe he's not scared at all. And through reading to my daughter or son this book, I will suddenly make him think and be aware of the possibility of death.
Right.
And maybe I don't want to do it, because why would I?
Yeah, I know, it's such a good question, because even in classrooms, I'm a little reticent to in one class, a 5-year-old said, during I was reading the story, he said, "Oh, the grandpa died." And I really wasn't prepared to talk about it or to go into that, but it is, at that moment I said, "Yes, grandpa has died, but let's talk about that after." And I continued to read the story. But yes, it does bring up things that maybe you're not ready to talk about, but it's not a bad thing to think about, because when somebody dies, it's sudden and we don't know how to deal with it. And we're thrown into this, and we all have ways of dealing with those difficult topics. Either we jump into it without thinking, which was my way a lot of times, or we can't really plan to have this discussion. So I think it's not a bad way to approach it. It's a delicate way to approach it. And I think it's important that a parent reads this book first before they read it to their children, and preempt what kind of, questions might come up.
And as a storyteller and a mother that reads a lot of books, and some of the books do deal with the difficult topics or emotional topics, I want to say 2 things. Number one, when I'm with my son in a reading time at our home, and I'm with him or with her, then I don't have a problem that if I read such a book which deals with this very delicate, not dramatic. So if my child will start bring up issues and challenges he or she has with this topic, then that's amazing. That's great, because now I'm with him or her and we can talk about it.
Right.
Okay. And maybe they won't say anything, because the death in this book can be something aside, and the focus can be on the game, on the stopwatch.
Yeah.
It depends of the child. The child will take this book to whatever they are dealing with. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And when I present to JKSK, which is that's like 5, 6-year-olds, I talk about memory objects that remind us of the people that we love. We don't talk about grief. We don't talk about sorrow. But the stopwatch reminds the child about grandpa and how ticking sounds like grandpa, and that feels good. And I asked them what kind of objects they have that remind them of an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent in their lives. And one child had a glass figurine from a grandmother. Another child remembered a scarf. I mean, it gets really emotional, but they're so keen to talk about those things and those special objects that they remember. Because we want to remember. We want to remember those people in our lives.
It's true. And you're offering something very, very specific that they can do so they can remember. First of all, I want to say hello to Glanina from Romania and hello from Carmen Mock.
Oh, she's
that agrees with you.
Carmen is the illustrator. Oh my gosh, I have to say.
Oh, Carmen is the illustrator.
She's the illustrator. Hello,
Carmen. Wow. I love those illustrations.
Yes, and I have to say, without Carmen, she took this book to a different level. Like this, picture books are great because it deals with difficult subjects in a sweet, lighthearted way, and she took that to the nth degree with the simplicity, the color palette, the gentleness. Like she brought forth things that I couldn't say, like this picture here.
I know what you're going to show me. The one that he scratches. I love it, Carmen Mock. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. There you go, Miss Carmen. So the page doesn't say I'm angry. I'm so angry with life that I want to tear up this page. It says, now there are no more grandpa minutes, grandpa seconds. Time just stops. That says everything about anger.
Great. Yes.
I get goosebumps when I look at that.
Me too. And I think that this is the beautiful way to show emotions with children, because again, a child will never express emotions by starting to talk about his feelings, right? It's a child. They will just sit there being sad, or they will just draw something like this.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to talk about sadness and how do you feel when you're sad and what do you do when you're sad?
Yes.
Kids open up about that so easily. Do you talk to a parent? Who do you talk to when you're sad? And you should talk to somebody when you're sad. And also, what if one of your classmates is sad? How do you deal with that? So it asks a lot of questions that kids need to think about, that are good to think about. And also the one page where the child just wants to be alone. It's okay to be alone. It's good to be alone and to think and to let time kind of drop down.
And what I like about even specifically this page is something that I realized just recently when I read again your book. Thank you, Leah. About the fact, Loretta, let me think if you thought about it.
That
on one hand, you bring the stopwatch, which is a beautiful object for a game, for memory. It's so compelling as a toy for a child, and it has this history. But I think there's another message, and that is that emotions, whether they are good or bad, they end. It takes a couple of minutes, and after a while it goes. And like there's another layer in your book that all those emotions, time changes them.
Right.
So even when he's angry, after a while he has another attitude. He feels different things. So like choosing the object of a clock watch and dealing with emotion, like there's another message that emotions, good or bad, they go away after a while.
Right. And that
you can be sad a couple of minutes, a couple of days. You can't be sad for so much time. After a while, it changes. Maybe it will become anger. Maybe it will be something, maybe memories, but it will change. And that's a beautiful message for children and parents.
Thank you. I'm so happy you saw that. I mean, I didn't start seeing everything until I started talking about the book and presenting the book. It's not how the book started. It started as, timing and stopwatch, kids timing each other. Those are the games my brothers and I used to play all the time. But at one point, Grandpa says, seconds tick by quickly, Grandpa says. He clicked the silver button again and the watch stopped. Another button reset the hand back to 0, but you can always start over again.
Love this
So there were
sentence.
so many great themes when I started changing how I was going to write the book. I kind of went further with it, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's these great ideas with time spent together.
Yeah.
That's how it became a story about loss, because of the theme had so many elements to it. And I love the connection that every second counts. Make every second in our life matter. I also had some health issues before I wrote this, and I think your perspective changes in your life. I had to have radiation. I had to go through a whole thing, and I think your perspective on life changes.
Yeah.
And I just liked the timing aspect, because I think for me it was like, I've got to get going. Time is running.
Yeah.
I've got to get moving.
And so good. Maybe it stimulated you to publish this book.
Absolutely, it did. I had so many books written, but I never did anything about them.
So glad you did it.
Yeah, thank
you. Just a second. Okay, just a second. I want to make sure. So you say children, we talked about how children respond to it.
Yeah.
And another question for parents, do you find it hard topic for parents to deal with? Do they ask you about these questions?
I haven't had, sometimes there's been parents in the classroom. Now I'm doing Zoom class visits, and it's interesting. Wow, it's such a different way to present, but I really like it, because the kids are in the classroom, but now that we're going into another stay at home and another lockdown, I'm going to be talking to kids in their homes, and they can put up their hand and ask a question. So I don't really deal with the parents. But the people who have booked me, like teacher librarians, they're very careful about the topic. They don't want kids going home and being upset. So our approach changes depending on the moment and what kind of questions they're asking for, because every experience is different. Every child has had a different experience. So absolutely, it's tough for any of us to deal with this, but how we approach it really matters. We all have a different approach, and we need advice to know how to deal with it. I found a really good Oxford University has a really good info sheet on how to tell children someone has died, steps to prepare, and great questions like, how do you want your children to hear the news? And that's really important. How do you want your kids to hear this news for the first time that our neighbor or somebody has died? They have great tips like talk very slowly and very honestly. Be clear that the person has died, and avoid terms like he's gone to sleep, because that questions like, is he going to wake up again? Or what if I go to sleep?
Sure. Or he's up in the sky, or things like that, right?
Yeah. It's really confusing, and kids are so smart. So
yes.
And we don't always deal with things the way we want to as parents. Like I said earlier, we either rush into them, we don't plan, we don't even deal with it at all. I mean, it's such a difficult and frightening discussion, and I really hope this book smooths the way into a good, healthy discussion.
And I believe that these are great ways to deal with these topics through books, because what is the alternative? Not to talk about those things, to pretend it doesn't happen, and then it will happen. So why not do it in a safe environment when we can talk about it, feel safe to express our emotions?
Yeah, and it's really important for the emotional maturity of a child to know how to be compassionate, and how to share their feelings, and how to give themselves time to deal with.
And by the way, children from a very young age are aware of death. They see an ant that is dead, or like an animal, so they understand it in some way.
They do.
Okay, so the fact that we never talk about it is it can be really a message that we shouldn't talk about this or something like that.
Right, but it also can be talked about with hope, and that,
Yeah,
and that's what this story has. It has hope at the end. I mean, it's a very joyful ending in a way, but
it's true.
it's like, think of all the great things. I show a picture of my grandmother's earrings from Italy. They came all the way from Italy, and these are so important to me because this is what reminds me, and we want of my grandmother and the great times we had together. And we want to remember those people because if we forget them, they don't really exist to us. So
Hmm.
this is like my favorite picture illustration that Carmen drew. This is so hopeful. The child eventually finds the stopwatch again, and it says, then
And this time he is happy.
yes, I find it buried in my red jumper, and it fits perfectly in my hand. So
Yeah. And I think there's a beautiful ending when he shall we reveal the end? Is it okay?
I think so.
I think the ending is the beautiful that he
Yeah.
even releases it and brings this to his
Yes.
sister, right?
Yes, for sure. And you know what? That was the editor at Kids Can Press is Katie Scott. And that was her suggestion. Why doesn't the child pass it on? I mean, it was always a boy when I wrote the story, but so the child says, when the smell of homemade cookies fills my room, I hop out of bed and run downstairs. A quick 6 seconds to get to the kitchen. So there's all kinds of timing in there.
Yeah.
He's timing even himself. I wonder if I can eat 3 of them in 4 minutes. I'll need some help to find out. So can I just quickly read there's a really great write-up.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. By the
And
consultant.
hello from Portugal, Pacho
Oh
Areti.
gosh, I don't see any of the chats, so that's really cool.
Okay.
This is written by the Laura Callahan, who is the consultant and clinical psychologist and co-founder of Trigger Publishing. It can be very hard to know how to talk to children about loss and death. This beautiful story provides us with an entry point to discuss these difficult topics. Grandpa's Stopwatch normalizes the sadness and grief children might feel after the death of a grandparent. It also shows young readers that these feelings can lessen over time and that we may be comforted by memories of loved ones we have lost.
I love it.
It says
Loretta, if someone wants to buy your book, how can he do that?
Okay.
And as you see, we have a lot of Europeans here.
Yeah, so I have it on my website, booksbyloretta.com. You can buy it at local bookstores, Watermark, W.H. Smith, I think it's Watermarks, Anyway, it's on Amazon UK, the bigger places, but all the independent bookstores for sure. There are some links on my website.
We will put the links underneath this interview.
Okay, great. Thank you. I also have some activity sheets on my website. These are great. I give them out in the classroom. Timing fun and
nice.
Talk about. So those are really good for kids. There's also a recipe I say to the kids so that you'll remember me. There's a recipe for oatmeal raisin cookies there. Also, if you have a chance, go to Carmen Mock's website, carmenmockstudio.com. You can also find her on Instagram. She does these fabulous tutorials and explains a lot about her process of illustrating children's books.
She did an incredible, Carmen, you did an incredible work there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Loretta, it was so fun talking to you. If anyone has a question, yeah, we're both new at this.
Yeah, are there any questions? Any other questions
maybe there is
in the chat?
If anyone has a question or something they want to say, then you are welcome.
I do have a second picture book coming out in 2022 called And JJ Slept, and actually one this month, which is through Sick Children's Hospital. And it's a book about a child who goes through a bone marrow transplant. It's published through the
I see you keep with the hard topics.
No, that one just kind of happened. I know a lady on the board, and it was such a. I think I like those hard topics actually.
Okay.
No questions.
So, Yeah,
right.
we covered it all.
They can always email or text or whatever, or, send a message on Facebook or Instagram. Revital, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be talking to you about this, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Loretta, it was my pleasure and my honor, and it's so cool that I just ran out in the Instagram, and we can meet. And then when we talk about it, there are so many people from all around.
Yeah.
Jim Garbutt says, talk about how you came up with the idea.
Oh,
And Areti says, thank you very much. So I guess Jim is...
He's upstairs, actually.
Hello, Jim.
Well, just like I said earlier, my brothers and I used to play these games in the pouring rain. We'd stand on our front porch, and I have 3 brothers, and we'd time each other running across the street and back. How long did it take you to touch the neighbor's front porch? Or how long does it take you to go down to the ditch at the end of the street? And of course, you'd be soaking wet when you came back, but that was the whole fun of the game. So that's how we amused ourselves. I don't even think we had a stopwatch. I think we had to count.
But I have a question. First of all, children count all the time. My son, I see him all the time. He wants to check the time and things like that. But you wanted to write a book. Why did you remember the stopwatch, or what?
Was
it through the object, or?
No, we were in the UK. We were on a trip, and we were walking down Gower Street, and I saw this daycare, and on the window of the daycare, that was right after my surgery and radiation and all that stuff.
Wow.
And so we took this great trip, my dream trip, and here was this little sign, all these little Post-its on the daycare, and it said, for how long can you stand on your head? And that's kind of the birth of it. It was like, oh, a story about timing and how long it takes to time you to do things. And then it just kind of morphed from there. It turned into a deeper story. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great beginning. And it's great that it got picked up by a UK publisher, because that was where it all began.
Nice. Yeah. I love this story. I love your personal story, how you published it, and how what made you start working on things. And it's all connected to the book.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Loretta.
So much fun to talk to, and thanks for making it so easy to talk to.
I tried. And thank you for everyone that joined, and for everyone that will watch the replay. And you can keep on asking questions. Me and Loretta can answer your questions. And I will put the link of Loretta's website and how you can buy the book. And enjoy reading, and don't be afraid to speak about subjects like that. And Michelle Fair says, so proud.
Oh, Michelle, it's actually Michael.
Michael. Okay. Hi, Michael.
Guys. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Great to have met you.
Great to have met you. Bye.